Hey everyone, today, so I'm probably not going to be doing as much of individual card reviews, but I want to talk about certain mechanics, certain things from the new expansion, and I want to talk about sort of the way that I think they'll change the game and what we can do with them, as opposed, and I'll talk about certain cards, whether I think maybe they'll see play, but I'm not going to be doing as much of a hard rating, but more talking about mechanics and why I think they're interesting. And the first sort of big mechanic that you've probably seen if you've been paying attention to the new cards is this Colossal Mechanic. So what does this do? You see Colossal +1. Every Colossal minion says Colossal, and then it has a +1. It might be +3, +4. And you can see it adds a certain amount of other things. And this one happens, is a real simple one called Clock, and it's got Clock Shell. You can see it's kind of it's really cool. It's kind of like a giant minion, and there's two parts to it. So it's kind of weird if you have a minion, you have minions that almost take more than one space on the board, which I think that's really interesting. It kind of makes sense that, some minions are going to take more board space than others. And I think one of the things I really like about it is that right now, like sort of single target removal is insanely strong in the game. So it's hard to just play, a 7-drop because then my opponent just goes Prize Plunder, Shadow or Death, Devolving Missiles, like insert like Torrent, and they every deck has these, and they're super cheap, and you just get outvalued and out tempoed. But with Colossal Mechanics, well, it might take 2 single target removals. And you might get an immediate impact from your card. So you might actually be able to outvalue or outtempo. The single target removal is an auto win against the giant thing. The giant thing might actually be really annoying for the single target removal to deal with. So let's look at this one. This is a Clock, and it's got immune while you control Clock Shell. And this is a Taunt Death Rattle, gain 8 armor. So well, I'm not convinced this card's completely strong. Let's look about why it's really annoying to deal with. So if you don't already have board, or you don't have a big board, and that's actually unlikely because the Druid usually is falling behind if it's kind of ramping up or getting to this big stuff. So usually, right now, the Scale of Onyxia is the kind of the most really powerful 7-drop. 7-mana card Druid has because it needs to come back on board after ramping, but who knows what the game's going to be like after the core set gets introduced. But why is this annoying compared to old stuff? So if I'm dealing with this, well, one, I have to deal with this Clock Shell. So if I don't already have minions on board, or let's say I don't have enough minions to deal 8 damage, well, do I want to use a removal on this or an removal on that? Do I use a board clear on 2 minions, which aren't really that threatening? Do I use 2 single target removal cards? These are all bad options, and you get the sort of the 8 armor benefit from when this dies, and maybe even there might be some weird Death Rattle synergies out there in the game too that go with it. So while I don't see this card really fitting into current meta archetypes, the game could go in many different directions, and I think this card's just this whole mechanic offers up a whole different way to play the game. And have value matchups where if you're playing a control deck, like let's say you're playing Control Warrior on ladder, and I'm throwing these colossal minions over and over again, it's going to be really, really annoying to deal with. Control decks don't really deal well with kind of this awkward stuff. Are you going to brawl this board? Are you going to Bladestorm this board? Bladestorm this board. This doesn't even take damage, by the way, because it's immune. While you have the Colossal Shell. Do you just ignore it, and then you're just taking 6 damage per turn? Plus, I'm gaining armor, sort of making it harder for me to kill. So this kind of stuff can be really, really. This card looks like a really good mid-range card. Now, like I said, I don't actually think this. If I'm being honest about this card in particular, I don't think it actually sees play. But I can see how this is so much more annoying to deal with than, for example, in Warrior currently. So let's show you Warrior currently, a very kind of similar card. We've got like the Crush Lord of Turtling, and this was a card. Oh, my face is blocking it. So the Crush Lord of Turtling here, you can see is kind of a very kind of similar card. You're gaining 8 armor. You're getting this sort of value from the Death Rattle. With the Frenzy, you can bring it back, but it barely sees any play. So I'm not convinced this other Druid card will see play, but I think the Colossal Mechanic sort of can change that. It has the Taunt, it has the Death Rattle. It's kind of much more annoying to deal with. Has that sort of, that Taunt has that immediate impact of almost like gaining 16 life. So I think where this, if my opponent has a 9 attack minion, if it just has lethal, like you have to have a lot of conditions, and my opponent just might run good single target removal, deal 9 damage to it, big shield slam, torrent plus spell damage, devolving missiles, all things that kind of wreck this. So I think the point is by spreading it out into 2 cards, you make this just a lot more annoying to deal with than a Crushed Lord of Turtling. And I really like that. So let's go over some more. I'm going to go over all the colossal minions kind of that have been released to at this point. So let's look at this Gigafin. Devour all enemy minions. Death Rattle, spit them back out. And I'm not sure. It doesn't say here, and if it actually sort of eats them. So if it's like a Bonham Lieutenant, where a Bonham Lieutenant, so let me see the Bonham Lieutenant, what the language on that card is. So the Bonham Lieutenant says and gain its stats, and this doesn't, so I don't think it gets its stats, but bottom line is like, this is really annoying. And it's even got, so this sort of Gigafin's Maw, permanently destroy all minions inside Gigafin. So if you're a tempo deck, and it's part of the problem is like these kind of things don't really work, like big minions historically don't really work well against tempo decks, because like I'm playing Rogue and I play Big Threat. Well, my opponent might just go Prize Blunder, Shadow Step, Prize Blunder, wreck me, and I kind of am out of luck. But with this, if I don't have one single target removal, and then also I have this Gigafin's Maw, so let's see your opponent has to get through this, well, then all those minions aren't going to come back out. So, but if you happen to have some sort of single target removal, you just remove that and you're right back in the game. So it's kind of this really annoying but interesting card that we'll see. If the board, if it's enough board heavy of a meta for it to make sense of this, but you might be able to devour something to get rid of something annoying. It might stall a tougher time. If your opponent doesn't have good single target removal, this might just win the game. Really, I think potentially powerful card that can kind of acting as a much better twisting nether. So let's keep going with so we've got this Gala the Tectonic, and it's after a friendly minion attacks, deal 1 damage to all enemies. So, and it summons to prove friendly max with Rush. So not only do you get these kind of drills coming right in, and that's just like, it's just really cool artwork here that you've got like the 2 arms of it, but you could also have mechs on board already, and sort of immediately do 3 damage. You've got that immediate powerful impact. You're dealing damage to face, you're dealing damage to board. So and if you just play this on an empty board, well, it's not so necessarily easy to deal with one single target removal. Opponent will use a board clear, but it takes more value to remove this card when you're kind of just using it as an empty threat on an empty board against like a control deck. But it also is good like against an aggro deck. So these cards you can see have like multi-purpose, and they're not just like dead in certain situations. Let's keep going with these colossal minions. So next we got Galaka the Gulper. After a friendly minion dies, gain its original stats, and it summons 3 kind of taunts. So this would become a 5/7, then a 7/9, and a 9/11. But it's after a friendly minion dies, so you could have any other minions. You could have minions on board. You play this, you trade, you get it bigger. You've got these taunts in the way, and this is really annoying to deal with. So and let's say my opponent does have a really good single target removal, they just kill this, but at least you have the 3/2/2 taunts. So you forced out a single target removal, and you've kind of gained some stats on that. So you're not losing the value war automatically now, and you're not losing the tempo war. So my opponent used a 1-mana shield slam on this. Well, I still have 3/2/2 taunts. That's not bad. And my opponent had to use some value, and they had to use some mana. So same kind of thing. So like I said, I'm not really sure if these kind of cards, like these kind of cards have historically not worked, but we'll see if the meta incentivizes these kind of cards get played. But these cards do look playable. And I might go, after we go through all these colossal minions, into the current standard set and show you how unplayable sort of big clunky cards are in most of Hearthstone. But most of all these look potentially playable. So next we got Xhilag of the Abyss. At the start of your turn, increase the damage by Xhilag stalks by 1. And you kind of get all these stalks, and they all do 1 damage to a random enemy. So what I like about this, and like I said, this is a lot of these colossal minions both double as a sort of threat in a value matchup, but also as a fighting for board in a tempo matchup. So you can play this immediately, kind of maybe these minions deal some damage, and they're kind of going to just keep getting stronger and stronger. So one, you get immediate 4 damage to the board. You make a wide board, and you've got these annoying tentacles that are dealing damage to you. So it's just sort of really awkward to deal with. And this is kind of like, if you have powerful 7-mana stuff, it needs to have a powerful effect. And this is, you have to remove this. It's annoying to remove. Are you going to use a board clear? Are you going to use multiple cards? So if the meta kind of incentivizes decks to get to the spot, like if they're just trading threats and all of a sudden I slap down Xhilag, well, that's really, really bad. Unless I have to be, if I'm not really ahead on board already, I'm going to have a really hard time dealing with this. And it's going to start just really spiraling for a win. So you really have to deal with this. So, but I much prefer, so, you might say, oh, are these too strong? I think there's a huge difference between board strong threats and burn strong threats. Because when you have board, your opponent has an opportunity to fight back and get rid of this and get rid of that threat and develop their own threat. But when you have burn, just pure burn, that's, Book of the Dead, Embers, Mizaki, Il'gynoth, Gyrots, your opponent doesn't really have that opportunity to say, okay, I have a chance to fight back. So you just kill them. And I think that's not really in the spirit of Hearthstone, and I think that's bad for the game. But this, you have that, you get a little bit of immediate impact, but now it's like, all right, your move. Can you deal with my Xhilag of Ibis? Can you deal with all its stocks? Oh, you can only kill 3 of them, and now one keeps getting stronger and stronger. So I think that's cool. Next, we got Nelly the Great Thresher. So, Battlecry, discover 3 pirate ships to crew Nelly's ship. So, this is a kind of a huge value card. So, like I said, but it's also, one, it's in 2 different cards. So you've got this Taunt, Death Rattle, pirate ship. So, got that immediate sort of impact of a taunt. You've got another threat, and this is going to give you 3 pirates. So, if you're sort of trading threats for threats, value for value, this card not only has an immediate order impact, it has defensive impact. It's annoying to deal with, and it gives you a lot of value. So you could get some pirates, and there are some high roll pirates. I'm not sure. I don't think you can discover multi-class, so you wouldn't be able to discover pirates. So you wouldn't be able to discover the new pirate Admiral Hotusk, which is very strong. But the bottom line is, if there is a strong pirate, you might be able to get it, and then all of us and get that threat, and really sort of just keep piling on the threats. So this card can be a very big value push sort of late in the game. So next, we got this Blackwater Behemoth, which when I first saw this, I didn't see what the colossal was, and I was like, this looks so terrible. And to be honest, I still think this is kind of terrible, but it's cool. At the end of your turn, force a random enemy minion to attack Blackwater Behemoth. So you play this, the lure lures it in, it attacks it, and you get that 8 lifesteal immediately. And this sort of threat. Now, I don't think this is that strong, but it's a cool effect. And it'll be weird to see if priests, but like this is a way you can kind of just have a really powerful effect, like a powerful heal effect while developing. So a cool card. I think this is way too big to see play, and I don't think it's as good as the other ones. But I still just sort of like these designs, and I hope the meta is incentivized to slow down where these colossal mechanics. Because the reality is, if you're in United Stormwind's meta, it doesn't matter if you have a 10 mana win the game 100% of the time card. It's not going to see play because you're going to be dealing with the consistent turn 7, turn 8 OTKs. But I hope the game is not in a place like that. Right now, we don't really know because the core set has not been released yet. But I think, some of the stuff looks really cool. So we had that priest one, and let's see. This one I actually really liked. So it's Rush, Divine Shield after this attacks Dredge, and you get another Colossal Leviathan's Claw. So what you can do is Dredge, what the mechanic does is look at the bottom 3 cards of your deck, put out one on top, and you have the Leviathan Claw. So one, not only is this immediate impact, trading 2 minions while developing, they have Divine Shield, but you get to tutor out a card. So a card like this, you play it, you tutor out a powerful thing for the next turn. So, immediate board impact, development, tutoring, but at the same time, it's not crazy amount of, this card doesn't auto win the game, which I like. So it kind of has threat. It keeps the tempo battle going, but doesn't auto win the game. I think that's really interesting. So, you can, like I said, you can use this to draw a card that you get to tutor out while developing. Really cool. And I think the last one that we've seen is the Krakatoa, another one with a lot of MEP. Your Krakatoa claws have +2 attack. You get these 2 claws, which and Krakatoa's claw, Death Rattle equipped to 2/1 claw, so it's like a 1-use hit. But what's nice, and I'm not sure if the weapon gets the +2 attack as well. But bottom line is you get attack into this, you immediately it dies, you get a clip of claw, you get the attack with that claw. So you get 4 different, 4 attack things, and you get the 6/5. So you get immediate impact, of board control. But what's nice is, like I said, if you're playing against a control deck, against something like Control Warrior, you can play this, and it's not just like, oh, I get shield slammed, big freaking whoop. Oh, I get Blade Storm. Blade Storm's awkward. Oh, if you do remove this board, you're taking 2 to 4 to the face from the weapons. So it has that sort of awkwardness for control decks to deal with. Which I think is, I much prefer when control decks have to deal with awkward big threats rather than the control deck has to deal with the fact that they're going to get 50 damage OTK'd. I think that's a lot more of an interesting effect. So bottom line, before we finish up the video, let's I just wanted to go and show you guys compare current. I was looking at 8 drops, and you can look at mana cards that cost 7 mana plus. So you look at this, Priest of the Fury doesn't even see play. Ildar Inquisitor, like so many of these cards either don't see play or involve mana cheating. So Brute sees play, but that's because you're never paying 8 for it. Jace is the win condition that you build your whole deck around. So when you build your whole deck around this card, it sees play and has a battle cry, basically win the game. But all these big demons don't see play. Even Uzrael Giant, which I thought was really cool, with the mana cheating, just not really fast and consistent enough to see play in the current decks. Look at these Druid cards. Agent of War, nope. Druid of the Plains, nope. Marsh Hydra, nope. Cenarius, nope. Oh, these cards see play. Why? Because you're mana cheating them. Cenarius, any of these cards? No, these cards are completely unplayable. Dark Moon Tonk, everyone's tried to make work in Mountain Bear, but these cards just get annihilated at the competitive level. Even though there is a deck with Mountain Bears that works at sort of a low competitive level, the reality is, when I can Devolving Missiles or I can sap this back into your hand, why am I going to run this card? It's just so clunky and can just get outvalued by multiple 1-mana cards so easily. So these kind of cards are just too clunky to work. You can see all the freaking big hunter cards are completely unplayable. And these kinds of cards have kind of seen some play, but Mordresh and Pingmage, but they've never been actually good as of now. Lady Liadrin sees play in Libram Paladin, but it's like such a giant, win the game value card. Even then, it's not even often the strongest card in the deck. You can see Priest, like, look at these cards. none seeing play. And I actually remember I used to run Skeletal Dragon and Priest for a while, but in Flesh Giant, it's a discount, another discount card. SI7. Why does it get run? Because it's not paying the full mana. Shaman, like Baron of Glacier, which I originally ran in the day one for free Shaman. Just like, why would you run this when you could just burn your opponent for 25 from hand? You know, Elakir sees plays in crappy Elemental Shaman list, but at the competitive level, just not good enough. See all these cards, even Sociologist doesn't make the cut anymore. Sort of like cards like even Brute that used to have the discounts. Now that doesn't have the you're not getting down for 0 consistently. Sees 0 play. Troublemaker, which was a threat, and Rush Warrior, just not good enough. You can see so the cards that do see play, one Mutinous is because it's a disruption ability, and Humongous Owl because it's an OTK enabler. Bottom Lieutenant was seeing play kind of as the meta was slow for a while for Druid because of that sort of immediate impact, corrupting the strongman. But with Kazakhstan, it just can't compete. So it was kind of addressing a weakness, but now once again, just not good enough. So you can see, look at how all these cards. Do you see this play on ladder? No, you see it from Cenarium Words. That's the only reason you know these cards exist. Varian has seen play, but mainly in Paladin and some in my Druid deck. But for the most part, it's sort of on the low end. And it usually is addressing more that the card draw element than the actual threat. Malagos does see play, but Alexstrasza was seeing play. But you can see sort of Null and Nixia do well. Yogg saw play for a while. But bottom line is, big stuff sucks in Hearthstone. That's kind of the point I'm trying to make here. Big clunky cards are terrible. You know, if I play, you know, you'll see you've seen Scrapeyard Colossus see play because of mana cheating, cheating out in Big Warrior. But the reality is, if I actually just play this card, the reality is it's just gonna, you know, my opponent goes Devolving Missiles, my opponent goes some sort of Hex effect, you know, some sort of thing of that nature, and just completely wrecks me. Or they just do 2 single target removals, or they buff up their board and they trade efficiently. So these cards just can't really compete as of now, but I'm hoping the Colossal Mechanic kind of makes it so these big clunky cards are a little more powerful and make more sense in modern Hearthstone. So I really like the mechanic. I hope it sees play. I hope it's good enough. So I just wanted to talk about that and talk about the individual cards. Hope you guys like this content. If there's another mechanic of the new set you'd like me to talk about, feel free to leave a comment in the comments below. But yeah, so anyways, see you guys around. Thank you, everybody.